Before I could even think of what to do next, there was another sound, a crashing noise from behind the door where the soldier had come. Heavy footsteps approached rapidly. The general turned, momentarily distracted by the chaos outside. The door burst open again, and several armed guards stormed in. But whose side were they on? My heart raced, watching the general's face shift from confidence to confusion. I recognized one of the soldiers, a friend I'd grown close to since my early days here, but his face was different now, set with grim determination. The other guards flanked him, their eyes unreadable, focused on the general, assessing, waiting. The general's voice cut through the tension. "What is this?" he demanded, gun still raised. "Have you all lost your minds?" One of the guards spoke, his voice steady. "General, there are orders. Higher than yours." The general sneered. "Orders? There are no orders higher than mine." He raised his weapon again, aiming it at the lead soldier. But in a split second, my friend lunged forward, deflecting the general's aim. The gun discharged, filling the room with deafening noise. That single shot was enough to break the silence. The guards opened fire, bullets tearing through the room. I ducked lower, covering my head as the walls exploded in splinters and smoke. The woman beside me screamed and dropped to the floor, shielding herself. I took the momentary distraction to grab her arm and pull her to safety behind a table. We crouched, watching the scene unfold, hoping we'd stay out of sight. The general fought back furiously, bellowing threats as he struggled against the soldiers. "You fools! Do you think you can take me down? Do you know who I am?" His voice echoed in the room, but even his rage couldn't hide the slight tremor in his words. I could barely see through the smoke, but I could hear everything, the deafening gunshots, the shouts, the clash of bodies. The general's men had joined the fight, refusing to go down without a battle. But it was clear that this was a losing one. One of the soldiers finally wrestled the gun from the general's hand. It clattered to the floor, and silence followed, a thick, loaded silence that seemed to hold the air still. The general looked from face to face, seeing the stony resolve in their eyes. He had lost his grip on power, but he still held onto his arrogance. The lead soldier took a deep breath and addressed the general directly. "You're done, sir. There's no place for tyrants anymore. You've left blood on every corner of this country." He turned, signaling for two of the guards to restrain him. They stepped forward, shackling his wrists, and for the first time, the general looked small, almost vulnerable. It was strange. This man who'd haunted my nightmares now stood in shackles before me. A sudden, fierce wave of relief and anger washed over me. I wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but my body remained frozen. The general, with one last look of defiance, turned to me. His eyes narrowed. "This isn't over," he whispered, his voice a dangerous promise. "You think you're safe? There will always be another like me." But his words felt empty now. The guards hauled him out, leaving the room heavy with silence. After he was gone, the woman and I slowly stood up, staring at each other in disbelief. We were free, or so it seemed. I staggered toward the door, every step feeling surreal, like I was walking out of a nightmare. As we reached the corridor, more soldiers moved past us, securing the area, rounding up those loyal to the general. It was a massive operation, a counter-coup, though I hadn't known it was coming. To me, it felt like fate, an unexpected end to a nightmare that could have lasted forever. Outside, the night was filled with flashing lights and sirens. People who had lived in fear for years now emerged cautiously from the shadows, watching as the tyranny fell apart before their eyes. I looked at the woman beside me, our lives forever changed by what we had just witnessed. She glanced back at me, a faint smile breaking through her exhaustion. "It's over," she said, her voice soft but filled with a certainty that finally made me believe it. But as I looked up at the sky, I couldn't shake the general's final words. Perhaps there would always be others like him. Yet, standing there, alive and free, I knew one thing for sure: we had lived through the darkness, and we will remember. And that memory would keep us vigilant, ready for whatever comes next. For most definitely, there will always be more battles to fight.